Hi, I'm Sami Gardner, and this is the Career Kickstart Show. I am talking to a full-on outdoor guide. Now, I got to back up a little bit because I met Marli earlier on in November. I met her at this fabulous event called Queer Hustle, and instantly I noticed Marli's energy. You know, she has that way about you where you just end up looking at her, smiling, and being like, gosh darn it, I like you, you know? So she's doing a lot of different things, just checking out, you know, her bio and everything. I like to joke, you know, like we were before the show, that what she does is that she teaches people how to commune with the trees, but really she's doing more than that. So let Marli introduce herself so you can learn all about Marli Williams.
Beautiful. Well, thanks for having me. My name is Marli, as Sami said, and I am a professional camp counselor. That's what I do for a living. And people are like, well, where's your camp and who are your campers? And, you know, a lot of people think that camp is only for little kids, but I run an adult summer camp for women, entrepreneurs, change makers, and leaders by helping them really tap into their purpose and their potential through the power of play. I think play is a place for people to access their power. And I think as adults, we kind of lose track and forget how to do that. And my mission in life is to help women, especially who are like lady bosses and like making change happen in the world, also have fun doing it. Like we can have a good time. And so as a professional camp counselor, weaving my background, I actually have a degree in outdoor education. So I have a degree in being a camp counselor. They let you just major in anything these days.
Amazing.
So combining my love of the outdoors and nature and personal growth and personal development and creating spaces and places for people to reconnect with themselves, have a digital detox, kind of just get away from their screens and into the green. And that's what I do. I love facilitating transformational experiences like Camp Yes, which is the summer camp that I run, in addition to actually training other people how to facilitate through the Confident Facilitator Academy, which is another program that I run as well. So lots of stuff that I do: coaching, speaking, leadership training and development. But the big things are the facilitation work and the camp.
You know, what I love about all this is the fact that I have seen a lot of trainings for leadership, for transformation, but you make it seem like a lot of fun, which I feel like it's important to tap into that sense of play, especially when we're thinking about branding, professional development, who we are, because that's usually not a pathway that we go when we try to figure out what we want to do in our lives or try to get some clarity and everything like that. It just seems like something where whenever we're like, time to figure out your life, Junior, you're like, shucks, this is not going to be fun. This is, you know, this transformation's going to suck. But, you know, it seems like with the power of marshmallows, I assume there's marshmallows. Can you verify if there's marshmallows?
There's definitely marshmallows. S'mores are essential.
Okay, I like that. I like that we got some essential marshmallow action in on this. Now, with your camp and everything like that, because we're talking about how not just the camping and stuff, but how to stand out being you, you know, can you kind of talk a little bit about how you have found your way into this world of transformational camp counselorship? Like, how do you get there? You know,
how does that happen?
How? Tell us how, and then we can kind of reverse engineer for others.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think the interesting thing is, to me, Camp Yes is a combination of everything that I believe in and who I am as a person. And I think that a lot of people, like, that's kind of the ultimate goal, is figuring out who you are and how to do work that you love that feels in alignment. I think a lot of people use like alignment, authenticity, but it's like being in an environment or a career where you get to be you. And to me, I think that so much of my process in getting to where I'm at is through a lot of self-inquiry, personal development work, and like self-awareness of knowing your strengths, like knowing who you are, knowing the things that you love to do. Like, one thing I know about myself is I love spending time outside in nature, right? And that's one of the places where I feel the most connected to myself, the most lit up, the most grounded. And so for me to think about, if I'm going to create an event, it's not going to be in a hotel conference room with fluorescent lights, because that's not me. What is me is creating a 4-day experience in nature, in the woods, away from all of the noise, because that's where I feel the most alive. And so thinking about, if I'm going to create something as an entrepreneur, I want it to feel like it is a reflection of who I am. And in order for that to be a reflection of who I am, whether I'm an entrepreneur or working in a career, of like, is it in alignment? And I can't know if something is in alignment if I don't know who I am, if I don't know what I'm stoked about and what lights me up and what energizes me and what my strengths are. And so much of that work is like asking the right questions. What do I love to do? And what am I really good at? And what am I excited to do? And who am I excited to do that with? A lot of reflection, a lot of questions, and giving myself permission to do the things that I'm drawn to, going to events and conferences where I'm meeting other people that are doing work that might be similar, and continuing to learn and grow and figure it out. And it's like a constant evolution. And I think that the more time we spend getting clear about that, the more that we can stand out by being ourselves in the world, whether we're starting our own business and have our own business or want to have a career. So much of that is just knowing who you are and what you want.
And with camp and everything like that, because I would assume when you're tapping into that play, you're tapping into the inner child and who you were before everybody told you who you were supposed to be.
Yeah. And as a kid, anything was possible, right? Like, we didn't have these preconceived limitations or beliefs. But as your 5-year-old self, a teacher asks you, what do you want to be when you grow up? I'm like, I want to be an astronaut, like whatever, like the sky's the limit. And as we go through life, we start to limit ourselves because maybe we didn't get that dream job, or we didn't get into that school, or it's like we had a bad experience. And so I think the idea of camp and using play as a pathway to tap into your potential is that, it's reconnecting with that part of ourselves that has always been there. I love, someone said recently, like 10 out of 10 adults were children once. And I was like, truth, right? Like, we forgot that we were kids, and we have access to that place of like, what could be possible? And those bigger questions of like, if I could do anything, what would I do? I think that, like you said, a lot of the personal development work or transformation or leadership or whatever can feel really heavy and serious. And that can be a hard place for people to access, and putting a lot of pressure on themselves. Like, I need to figure out what I'm going to do with my life. Right. And it's really heavy versus like, I wonder what I could do with my life, and approaching that through that childlike wonder and curiosity and playfulness opens up the energy of creativity and of joy and possibility versus like, I need to figure this out right now. It's like, we can't be creative from that place, or it's a lot harder to do that, I think.
I would agree. And what I think is interesting about you and your brand is that for a lot of folks in personal development, it's like Tony Robbins shouting, cursing from the stage and stuff like that, which is something that works for some people. Sometimes it pumps me up, sometimes it doesn't. But there is something to be said about having those moments of joy and relaxation. And I feel like this makes you stand out. Now, let's kind of transition into the branding aspect. How did you decide to, go? Because you said that's you. That's why you decided to go into that. But what would be for somebody who has a dream that's like, I got this quirky, off-the-wall idea that I think people will like, but I'm not sure. How does somebody go and give themselves permission to stand out by being themselves when we get so many, I guess you could call it socialization, you could call it messaging, right, marketing, that say, no, have you thought about being somebody else?
Right. I think our ideas aren't an accident. I believe that if you have an idea for who you want to be, like whether that's a career move or something that you want to create, that it's not an accident. And there's a reason, like, you have that vision, right? For me, it's like, there's a reason I have the vision to create Camp Yes. And someone else has, like, Beck has the idea to create Queer Hustle, or you have the vision to create Career Kickstart Academy. I think honoring our ideas enough to pursue them and to take imperfect action versus perfect inaction. because it's this illusion of once I have this degree and this certificate and this other thing and this training, then I'll launch the podcast or then I'll launch the idea. It's like we learn so much through the process of doing and taking action, and that people have this illusion of like, well, once I have more clarity, then I'll take action. And I always tell people clarity is a result of action, not a requirement for it.
Oh my gosh, snaps to that. That is one of my big philosophies, because I feel like, and tell me if you disagree, that action doesn't just help create clarity, it also creates confidence. Because until we actually
100%.
try to do something, even if it's failure, like we don't always believe ourselves. Could you talk a little bit about the role that confidence and action takes in this clarity?
100%. I totally agree that it's like we wait to feel more confident before we take the action. But it is the action that builds that confidence and that momentum. And a lot of people talk about the idea of like, what is the minimum viable product kind of thing? What is something that I could create? What's an action that I could take? And an action could be an informational interview, or an action is like, I'm going to book the venue for the event, put down the deposit for the retreat center or whatever. And then like, okay, the first person signed up to come to this thing, I better create it, versus I need it to be perfect before I launch the thing. And confidence really does come from taking action and being willing to put it out there. I think I heard a quote that said like, courage is starting before you're ready. Because this illusion that like, oh, when I'm ready, then I'm going to do the thing when I feel ready. And like, I talk a lot about being ready enough. Like, what if you're ready enough right now? And what if you have everything that you need right now to do whatever it is that you want to do? Confidence to put your hat in the ring, apply for that job, even if you don't quote unquote feel qualified, or the courage and the confidence to reach out and do an informational interview with someone who you feel like intimidated by, because until you do it, there's so much anticipation and buildup. I don't know if you've heard of Mel Robbins, but her book is called The 5-Second Rule. And I appreciate the concept around like, if you have an idea or you feel inspired to do the countdown, like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, like send the email, make the phone call, book the place. There's so much power in action. And I think it does generate that courage and that clarity and that confidence that people are waiting for. But you have to create the opportunities to build your capacity. And it just doesn't happen by sitting and thinking about it. It comes when you do something.
Yeah, it's that momentum. Momentum makes momentum. Once you get the ball rolling, then you just got to watch it go down the hill. Now, you talk a lot about the journey and making sure that when you work with women primarily in this transformation, that it's about teaching them how to enjoy the journey. Because I know so many of us get focused on that destination that, this is just another to-do. So how do you help people enjoy the journey, or kind of explain what you mean by that?
Yeah, I think that we live in a world that really focuses and acknowledges the destination, right? The accomplishment of a goal. And yet there are so many people that have accomplished a lot of things and are miserable. How do we find the balance of like, I have a revenue goal, or I have a business goal, or I have this career goal, and this illusion that like, once I achieve this, then I'll be happy and feel fulfilled and content and successful, right? Versus how do I be happy and fulfilled and content along the way and appreciate the journey? It's kind of like climbing to the top of the mountain. Like, you're only on the top of the mountain for like 15 minutes, but you spent like hours or even days climbing to the top. And my question to people is like, are you looking around? Are you taking pictures? Are you taking it all in? Are you appreciating how far you've come? Are you having snacks? Whatever it is. Like, actually taking the time to acknowledge and appreciate the journey while you're on the journey. Because I think that helps you appreciate that end goal. And a quote that I love to tell people about, I think setting goals is great. Having destinations is awesome. And I tell people the purpose of a goal isn't necessarily to achieve it, but the purpose of a goal is to figure out who you are along the way. Achieving it is the icing on the cake.
Oh, I like that. And for some reason, when you were talking, all I kept thinking about was, when you listen to a lot of rap songs and everything, there's like a nostalgia to some of them where, they talk about, oh, back in the day. And I think that happens, and I've experienced this myself, where like when I got my master's degree, I'm graduating and I kind of look back and I think I had a good time, in grad school. But, I wasn't at least absorbing and appreciating those memories along the way, because those are sort of the moments that once you actually achieve it, you're just like, oh, man, remember back when we were bootstrapping this project? I bet even like Steve Jobs had times when he was like, oh, man, back in the garage with Woz, those were the days, even when he was like on top of the world. And I don't know where I was going with that, but I think it's something to be said that especially when people are reaching those destinations, those things that happened to get you there, those are the things that make it, I think, worthwhile. Because if we achieved everything so easily, it wouldn't have the same meaning, I don't think.
100%. Yeah.
Well, and one thing, just, as we're talking about standing out and everything, let's talk about, because I feel like for the folks listening at home, they're probably with us. A lot of the folks who listen to my podcast, they got some big goals, they have some big dreams. Now, those are your bread and butter people, because you work with those ambitious women who are looking to take a break from their boss lady lifestyles and really get back to nature. Now, can you tell me a little bit about maybe one or two activities that you do with the campers to get them back to play? If it involves blow up unicorns, the better, but that's not a requirement.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, one of the things that we do at Camp Yes is called the Camp Yes Games. And so every camper is actually assigned a camp crew and a camp counselor, because it's camp. And we have this all camp event called the Camp Yes Games, where all the teams play. There's 12 rounds, 4 teams, and 1 winner. So the teams participate in all of these ridiculous games, and it is like absolutely hysterical. It's kind of like never have I ever seen grown-ass women like devour a watermelon as fast as they do at camp. And just like there's games called Cracker Whistle and Cheese Puff Face and Unicorn Relays and all sorts of stuff. But it's amazing to me because it's almost like uninhibited sense of freedom, like people just being totally silly, totally themselves. And it's like having that experience gives them access to like, who is your camp self? Like your camp self is willing to do crazy things and look silly in front of people and not care what people think and not have to wear makeup or feel like you have to have a certain type of clothes or whatever. Like one of the things that someone said at camp, because people come into camp, they drop off their stuff and then they go park their car. And they're like, I didn't know what type of cars people drove. And it almost created this like equal level playing field. And people don't relate to each other with their titles. They actually have camp names at camp. And so you have your own camp name, and your camp name can be like maybe something you want to embody. Like one person's camp name was Badass because she wanted to like really be more bold and feel more badass in her life. And so for 4 days, people are calling her Badass, right? Like their camp name was Queen of the Universe, It's like this super fun, playful way to embody this almost like alternate version of yourself, this maybe more confident version, but in a really playful way, and getting to practice letting go of what people think and being silly and being super playful. The other thing that I love that we do at camp is we have a lip sync battle and an untalent show. And what blew my mind this past year at camp is some of the most shy, reserved people are the ones who got up on stage because they felt safe enough to be themselves and to be fully seen and to like do something totally outside their comfort zone. And my whole thing with something like camp is, okay, if you could do this here, where else do you want to step outside your comfort zone in your life? And how else can you show up as this bold, brave, brilliant, beautiful version of yourself in your work and in your life? And what would be different if you did?
Oh my gosh, I love the idea of the camp self. It's like your drag queen self or something like that, where you have just a ticket to be fabulous.
Totally. It's like total permission to be your awesome, authentic, ridiculous self, but just like a little bit bolder and braver. And like, I just think we need spaces and places where we can let go and where we don't feel like we're being judged, and to help us tap into that and remember it, because we all have it. We all have access to that place,
Oh, of course. We all have that. It's just a matter of pulling off some of those layers so we can feel more comfortable to be that inner self. And how do you help people once they leave camp? Because I never went to a camp when I was a kid. I assume that after everybody leaves, that there's a period of a little bit mourning where you're like, oh man, I'm back to this adulting BS again. How do you help people after they leave camp keep some of those layers peeled away so they can still be that badass or that queen of the universe?
Yeah. I mean, because camp is such an intimate experience, people stay connected. People have done informal like slumber parties and potlucks. And, the Facebook group is pretty active with like, hey, I have this job interview. Like, I need a pep talk. Or, hey, does anyone have any advice or resources for books on this or whatever? So people definitely stay in touch. I also run a year-long group program at the moment called the Year of Yes. So it's Camp Yes. And then for people that really, maybe they don't have people in their life to help remind them of being their camp self and having support, community, mentorship, and accountability to like spend an entire year. Like, what would it look like for you to spend an entire year saying yes to you? So people that are wanting that level of support, I invite people to join me for that. So there's kind of different layers and levels for people to stay engaged after the experience is over.
And it's so important to have that accountability and that group experience. Because I know for me, before I started my entrepreneurship and a lot of my personal and professional development journey, I didn't have anybody around who was like, yeah, do more than the bare minimum. Like I'd love very great people around, but like audacious dreams. I mean, Tucson's a very laid back kind of a town. It's like mañana, man.
Totally. Yeah. And like being around that aspirational energy is so important. I'm sure you've heard the quote before, but it says like you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's so true. It's like making sure that you're surrounding yourself with people who inspire you and motivate you and who believe in you. That's just such an important part of it all, I think.
And it's so great that you're having this group camp experience for women where they can let their hair down. Because I don't know about you, but every time I visit my parents, they're always watching one of those sitcoms where the mom on the show, the designated mom, is the biggest killjoy. Like the kids and the dad are fun and everything, and the mom's just there to kind of grump all over everything. So it's nice to be able to give women that space to just be fun. Not to have to be like, everybody remember to wash their hands.
Yeah.
They can kind of let go of the defender of the children, the keeper of the husband, and things like that, and they can just be.
Yeah. And I think that that's so important to help women especially reconnect with themselves and know who they are outside of their roles. Because people, like women especially, get so attached to like the role of being a mom or a partner and lose sight of who they are at the core without the roles attached to it, and having some time and some space to not be taking care of everybody else, but to take care of themselves in a different way, in a deeper way.
Yeah.
Super important.
Self-care. This is high level self-care, ladies. You got to have fun. You got to get messy. You got to play around.
Hell yeah.
Marli, I love that that's your message. And we've been having a great chat. But before we end this session, I just want to make sure everybody who's listening at home or in the car, that they know where to connect with you, find out more about the Marli Williams world, your camp, all the exciting things that you're up to.
Beautiful. Yeah. Well, if you want to check out more about me and my work, you can go to my website, which is marliwilliams.com, just my name, Marli Williams.com. And then if you were interested in joining us at Camp Yes 2019, you could check out the Camp Yes website, which is campyesforwomen.com. And I would love to give anybody who's listening $300 off camp, and I will create a promo code just for y'all. And that promo code will be Career Kickstart.
Yes.
So,
bargains, lady.
Yeah, baby. I just want to make it easy for you to say yes to yourself, and hopefully that $300 will pay for your plane ticket out here.
Awesome. I love it. Say yes to yes. Thank you, Marli.
Yes to yes, baby.
Thank you again for the coupon code, dropping some of your folksy outdoor guide wisdom, bringing us back to our inner Girl Scout.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you all for listening. As always, I'm Sami Gardner, and this is the Career Kickstart Show. Bye. Change your career, change your life at CareerKickstartAcademy.com.